Isolation is a real staple for the horror genre of games. Being alone in the midst of horrific events, forcing yourself to make every step forward and preparing yourself for every danger that lies ahead. Very few games focus on the chaos of the situation to instill fear into the player, to use panic and desperation as your driving force, rather than the slow burning dread of other games. Killing Floor, first released in 2005, was probably the first game to experiment with such ideas, focusing on creating a sense of panic rather than dread, forcing players to move forward rather than nudging them along with eerie atmospheres and jump scares. Set in London, England, where genetically mutated creatures have overrun and escaped to the labs of their creation, players take on the role of what remains of the police and the military as they take down waves of hundreds of enemies in a desperate bid to stop the mutations. Players are thus forced to stick together as wave after wave comes against them, where working alone means certain death and standing their ground is a fool's errand. As you can guess, this is a co-op shooter in the mold of what would later become known as the Horde mode, with players taking on waves of enemies that get stronger with every wave, and have time and money between rounds to buy new weapons, armor and ammunition. The enemies come in all shapes and sizes, from the standard mutants that swarm you and hack you to pieces, to spider-like mutants that drop from vents and rooftops, to invisible assassins, to ones that can distort your vision, and more ever brutal killers with every wave. You're forced to fight harder and work together to hold your own long enough in the hope you survive to take on the game's boss character and stem the infestation. Buying new equipment, however, isn't as easy as you'd think, with the game's trade character constantly moving around the level between waves, forcing players to keep moving rather than holding their ground in one spot for too long. That said, if players do choose to stand their ground, they're given the means to block off doorways, to try and funnel the creatures down certain paths, or slow down their advance long enough to give them time to prepare or run away. Players also select perk bonuses before each game that affect their skills with certain weapons and equipment, their physical attributes, and the prices of further weapons and upgrades between waves. Killing Floor is an incredibly difficult game that punishes the uncoordinated, the loners, and the cowards alike by swarming you with enemies from all sides, making every safe haven just a trap to be sprung. Level design swings hard from dense, multi-layered office complexes to large open forests and farmland, meaning no tactic will work twice and no map will be the same. Those of you expecting a low-budget Left 4 Dead will be left horrified at how much harder and more brutal an experience this is, both on you as a player and a horror fan. Whereas most games succeed in being scary, Killing Floor goes one step further and tries to terrify and panic you, and in a lot of cases succeeds in doing so with bloody results. Every battle tense and grueling, every wave filled with hundreds to kill, and your guns are always on the brink of being empty, where every bullet counts, and every kill is a second longer to live. I give Killing Floor a huge thumbs up, a worthy purchase for any gamer. But whether that game has the stomach for it, well, that's not something I could answer.